Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Movies for Life YouTube channel. So the movie we're going to take a look at today to close out the month of September and kind of the first half of my 1982 movie reviews as part of my overall 1980s horror series is one that I streamed on YouTube. Don't have the physical media for. It's a movie that I would consider getting though if I can find it for relatively cheap. It's a it's a sci-fi erotic horror film entitled Forbidden World. So Forbidden World from 1982. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Excuse me. Originally titled Mutant, it's a 1982 American science fiction erotic horror film. The screenplay was written by Tim Kernan from a screenplay by R.J. Robertson and Jim Wynorski. It was co-edited and directed by Alan Holzman, who had edited Battle Beyond the Stars 2 years earlier. The cast includes Jesse Vint, Don Dunlap, June Chadwick, and Lyndon Childs, Fox Harris, and Michael Bowen. Forbidden World was also has also been released under the titles Mutant and Subject 20. Just a second, I gotta take a drink. So, in the distant future, at a genetic research station located at the remote desert planet of Zerbia, a research team has created an experimental life form they have designated Subject 20. The life form was built out of the synthetic DNA strain Proto B and was intended to stave off galaxy wide food crisis. However, Subject 20 mutates rapidly and uncontrollably and kills all the laboratory subject animals before cocooning itself within an examination booth. Military officer Mike Colby, accompanied by his robot assistant Sam 104, is called in to investigate the problem. After Colby settles in, his decision to terminate Subject 20 to prevent further deaths is met with research minded secrecy and resistance. The staff of the station includes the head of research Gordon Hauser and his assistant Barbara Glazer, lab assistant Tracy Baxter, lab technician Jimmy Swift, and electrician Brian Beal. The station's head of security Earl Richards and Cal Timbergen, the medical doctor. When Subject 20 hatches from its cocoon, it begins killing the personnel at the station, starting with Jimmy, who is charged with cleansing the subject lab to the dead animal text. Wait a minute. Who is charged with cleansing the subject lab of the dead animal test subjects. Okay. Um, Obviously, I have a frog in my throat. I apologize for that. That was kind of a rough synopsis there, but I don't want to reshoot this video again. As far as the cast goes, we have Jesse Vint as Mike Colby, Don Dunlap as Tracy Baxter, June Chadwick as Dr. Barbara Glazer, Lyndon Childs as Dr. Gordon Hauser, Fox Harris as Dr. Cal Timbergen, and Raymond Oliver as Brian Beal. So yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast for the 1982 sci-fi erotic horror film Forbidden World. This movie reminds me a little bit of the year prior, and I did a review for this on my channel with 1981, Galaxy of Terror, which I think was also a Roger Corman movie, I believe. Pretty sure. Now this movie's obviously a little bit different. The budget's not as high. The names, the actors in this movie aren't quite as well known as that movie had. That movie had Robert Englund in it, I know. But just kind of wanted to throw that out there. So I'm all about I'm always up for a schlocky space horror B movie, and that's really what this movie is. It very much borrows slash steals from three different movies, two especially. One for sure, that's Alien, that came out a few years before this. I would also say John Carpenter's The Thing is in here. And then Star Wars in general is also included in this movie, with a lot of like the shooting of the lasers and the spaceship shooting like fire blasters and things like that. Also, there's a scene where they're on like a sandy planet or something, and they're wearing like masks and stuff. That reminded me of the original Star Wars. But overall, I had fun with this movie, and I think if you go into it not expecting to take it seriously, as it doesn't take itself seriously. And you can have fun for 77 minutes. And I think you should check this movie out. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about Forbidden World. I enjoyed and was entertained by the overall. I enjoyed and was entertained by this Roger Corman schlocky space alien ripoff movie that knows what it is and doesn't apologize for it. There's a lot of movies that are made like B movies that think they're A movies, that think they're like a clever movie or something, and it doesn't work. Jaws the Revenge coming to mind. There's other movies that like this one that, if you want to say it's so bad it's good, that this one definitely fits into that category for me. I think the movie's well paced. It is only 77 minutes long, so just over an hour. So it gets right into things and doesn't, there's not too much dialogue. There's not too much exposition. It's just like, here are these characters. This is the planet they're on. This is the situation they're in. Go. It's basically what it is. And sometimes that's what you're in the mood for. I mean, sometimes you want exposition. You want to get to know the characters and everything, but sometimes you don't. This is the kind of movie that you don't. This movie knew that, so I appreciated that. God darn, I've got something stuck in my throat. I'm sorry, guys. My apologies, but I really don't want to reshoot this video again. Um, but yeah, it's never boring or it's never overkill because of the fact that they got the right time with about 77 minutes there. The practical gore and makeup effects I thought were quite good and effective in this movie. You have especially as certain characters are melting and certain things are oozing. Um, and characters being killed by the creature in different ways. I thought it was effective. I was surprised by the effects actually. This is a low budget B movie, but clearly they put a lot of the budget they had into the effects, the practical effects, and I appreciate that. Not only the practical effects, but like the practical makeup and gore effects on the characters after they've been killed or infected or whatever. So very good practical gore effects here. The movie has a lot of sex and nudity in it. When they have it as a science fiction erotic horror film, you kind of have to expect that. And they're not lying. I mean, there's two female characters in the movie, and they both get naked for like half the time they're on screen, basically. And there's one scene where they're even standing together, and one is rubbing the back or something of the other one, and they're talking, and they're completely naked, like in the shower or something, or coming out of the shower. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's a Roger Corman specialty. A lot of his B movies, there's sex, there's nudity. That's par for the course, and this movie definitely goes for it in that regard. Definitely exploitative. Um, then there's one sex scene that goes on for about 10 minutes, and even when it's not going on, they cut back to it as another character is walking around. And then there's another scene where it's going to be a sex scene, but then they're interrupted by the rest of the crew. So yeah, if you're offended by sex and nudity, you're probably not going to like this movie. But it's a Roger Corman movie, so you kind of have to know that going in. I wasn't offended by it because these are two beautiful women, and Tracy Bax and Don Dunlap and June Chadwick in the early 80s. So no offense taken here. Um, and then my final pro is the electronic musical score. I thought was very good, very fitting for this kind of sci-fi horror adventure, erotic movie. But yeah, it's got a very electronic kind of sound to it and rhythm to it, and I really liked it. I thought it was intense. I thought it was fun, very much fitting the movie. So those are my pros for Forbidden World. As far as cons go, the characters are paper thin, as and the story is equally convoluted, and we've seen stuff like this before. It's pretty ridiculous, frankly, and the movie basically combines, if not steals, from a combination of Alien, Star Wars, and The Thing, as I mentioned before, basically ripping off certain aspects of those movies. And not this movie's not nearly as good as any of those three movies, of course, nor would I expect it to be, being a Roger Corman B schlocky movie, but it does kind of rip off quite a bit, especially from Alien of those movies. But it doesn't offend me. But I'm just putting it out there that it's very much a steel job. when it comes to those other movies. I thought the editing was choppy in a distracting way that was hard to get past while I was watching the movie. I did want to see a bit more from the creature, and I was hoping the creature would look a bit better. It's clear that they used their budget up with the effects that I talked about earlier in my pros, the gore effects, than it did about on the creature. When we actually do see the creature towards the end, it's just kind of meh. It could have been a lot better. And then my final con is the sound design is pretty rough as well in this movie, which that's kind of par for the course. I kind of remember that being a thing in the Galaxy of Terror, although it doesn't stand out quite as bad as it does in this movie. Again, they just don't have the budget. When you use the budget up on your practical effects, which I appreciate, you kind of have to be willing to give in some other areas, and the editing as well as the sound design here is really kind of uh, inconsistent to say the least, to put it nicely. It just kind of comes across being very cheap. But overall, guys, I mean, Forbidden World is much like Galaxy of Terror in some ways. It's a schlocky B space movie with horror and erotica mixed in this case. So, but I had fun with it. I could definitely watch it again, and I might add it to my collection at some point. We'll see how much it goes for, in terms of the releases that are available out there. If it's out of release or not. But with that being said, I'm going to give this movie Forbidden World a 6.5 out of 10. You have fun with it. You know what you're getting into going into it. You just have fun with it, and you don't take it too seriously. And if you can do that, I would recommend checking this movie out. It is streaming on YouTube, and I'm sure other places as well. So, yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Forbidden World. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It would really help me out for the future of the channel and my content going forward. This is the last movie until November. We're going to take a little break from 1982 here, but don't think that it's over. I've still got a month and a half of 1982 horror or thriller related movies that I'll be reviewing. But as you'll see in my next video for the month of October specifically, I'm going to be changing things up a bit and doing something else for the month of Halloween here. So, but with that being said, I do hope you're enjoying 1982 overall, these horror movie reviews. Thank you for watching, but as always, stay scared. Bye.